Oh, and it could be a graveyard for GODSENT, but maybe it will be the second time that they surprise us, they shock us, and I would love to see that be the case. I really want to see these guys do well, and I'm looking forward to what the future will hold from them. But for now, they start on the CT side of the map, so Astralis will be quick to fire some frags down. Device and Zipex, both connecting with their Glocks now. Emmy at range will be trying to tee off on any of the oncoming aggressors. He has to play a different angle, goes back against the wall, and May just kills him where he stands. 3 kills unanswered before Farlig shows his hand up on top of Heaven, and he falls to his death, leaving it all on Zen. But if he's not killed by the Heaven players, he's getting wrapped on by Zipex. Down he goes, and Astralis claim first blood again.
Yeah, a strong start to them, and that's been one of the difference makers. Train, it was close, but we got both conversions. I guess you can put it that way. I hate saying like, oh, they won the second round and won the pistol. They got the rounds that mattered in the early stages, and that made the difference. In the last map, they lost both, and Astralis punished them for it. So realistically, I want to see GODSENT break back a little bit earlier, especially on a map like Nuke. Astralis sort of set the tone for this map by proving that you can win a decent amount of rounds on the T side. Up until they did, you have to remember, we always used to look at this map and go, well, you know, 11-4. That 4 is pretty good for the T side. Not anymore. Like, you're looking at 6-7 rounds, maybe even winning it sometimes, because they are that good at this half of Nuke. And they're going to go running in. Emmy actually wins his opening duel. Not bad with the CZ. And actually, Zen's caught another one. Maybe they're going to try and throw a spanner in the works. We saw it earlier on from the likes of Contact, and they're going huge. It's left on to Device. You mentioned his flashy plays, Vince. Well, he needs to be as flashy as it gets.
Oh, he needs to be flashy enough to blind all the oncoming CTs if he's going to have a chance to get out. And he doesn't have a flashbang to do it. Runs out of ammunition, lucky to still be alive, but it's at the cost of so much HP. And Madden finishes off what he started. Once again, GODSENT make the pistols work. A bit of BM for good measure. And the Danes on the back foot. With players it down at 1,500, they may have to force again.
This was such a good round from Zen as well. Very aggressive with the 5-7, taking fights where he could. And I'm liking that we've not seen the sort of confidence dip, because this is what they were doing on Train. You have to remember, back to their CT side, they were taking no liberties. They were getting aggressive into A main. They were challenging Ivy as well. We saw Zen multiple times push up the B ramp and just basically wreck Zipix, which, again, not something you say too often. So if they've got that same sort of setup when it comes to Nuke, they definitely could catch a few teams off guard. Now, in this round, as you mentioned, Astralis have had to take the risk themselves. Force buy into this one. Money for the next round would have been trash anyway, so it's a chance for them to at least try and break back in return. And, well, if GODSENT can do it, who's going to doubt Astralis?
No doubt. The difference is, though, that they can't play static to utilize their pistols. It's kind of where GODSENT came good. Sure, they had a couple players that pushed in aggressively, but they also had the static members cleaning up the rest. But Dupree's aggression is paid off in time with a headshot. Magus tagged and then finished off. Glaive, meanwhile, puts a bullet down range and connects onto the head of Madden. And Sticko switches from his UMP to his Deagle and gets success with both for a 3K. Astralis force buy, but they are slapped away with authority by GODSENT. 2-1 lead.
Exactly what they needed. And I mentioned the first map. This is going in a similar fashion, at least in the early stages. They've got off to the strong start. They forced Astralis back to an eco. And more importantly, they have a chance to really build up their economy here. Madden, he is definitely the highlight player to watch on this map. Like, I expect Farlig to do well with the AWP, but Madden, at least historically, was a lunatic on this map. He used to try and get into the vents almost every single round. Like, that was his goal on the T side, was just continue to push, continue to be irritating, and basically get behind them. Now, I expect a team like Astralis to be able to shut that down, but so far, it's been their CT side, if anything, that has been the more aggressive of the two. The farming going well, though, as Magisk is the only one remaining, and they won't get a single frag. GODSENT doing exactly what's needed of them, and they get the 3-1 start.
Yeah, well played so far on the CT side. After conceding the pistol, identical start to Train. They've put 3 back-to-back. It did end up 10-5 to Astralis that time around, and obviously the second half was just all GODSENT. Astralis now comes straight back with full AKs. A very healthy purchase. Looking for the line and wall of smokes outside. Will be a reoccurring theme on both sides of the map. It is pretty much the most standard play that every team will go for. Opens up avenues of aggression, but there's a gap in that smoke, and Farlig will make sure that he has his aim straight down there. Glaive now finding that out firsthand, needs to be very wary, but Farlig not sure if maybe this is by design. Maybe some players on main are looking to try and bait him out into the open so they can pick him off for free. But the fact that Astralis only have one smoke left, and they were unable to push behind those walls of smoke, that is significant. That is a lot of time and utility that has been expended for very little return.
In those situations, I always question if the CT's used an incendiary to displace that, because if that's a smoke that was genuinely thrown by Astralis, that's awful. That wasn't even close. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that GODSENT have done something to deny that smoke, because if not, that's a pretty big mistake. Well, for them now, 35 seconds left. They're almost hoping that there's nobody watching on the other side, but there are players ready for the cross, looking like they're going to try and wrap back into this A site, but they've missed hard. Maybe they're just trying to hold off rotations. I think that's the case. Farlig, however, is already going to catch off one. The remaining players have gone down, but it seems like GODSENT might have got this slightly wrong. The rotation comes in from Sticko, but he loses the duel. And with only 15 seconds left, it could have been crucial. Farlig misses as well. They had chances in this round, but it's all fallen apart as only 2 remain.
And those are the kind of missed opportunities that can really start to stack up and cost you maps and cost you matches. You saw Stiko's reaction straight away. He was so angry with himself. But the fact that Farlig then dies to Glaive as well afterwards is kind of insane. Like, there was only 15 or so seconds left. If Farlig connects onto Glaive, that could just sum up the round. At the very least, it puts Astralis into a really awkward position, like a 3-on-3 engage, that can go either way. And so even though GODSENT will concede this round, I honestly feel like there's a very good chance of this being a 4-1 Tom, no post plant, and Astralis being broken. With a beautiful start on GODSENT, but that's Astralis for you. They just happen to grind out these rounds that probably shouldn't be theirs.
Well, that's the thing I've thoroughly been enjoying, actually, about Glaive, is that on both the maps where I feel like they should be struggling a little bit more on the T side, especially with the calling that's coming through, he is bailing them out of situations. Like, there was a round almost identical to that on the B side of Train, where he just goes running down the ramp and entries into 2 players. He does it again. If he doesn't get those 2 kills, there's 15 seconds left, they lose the round. It's almost like an old style, like Pronax style of Fnatic, where you just have the individuals that are good enough to make any call work, no matter how late the round is. And, well, we talk about legendary rosters. I think both of those rosters come into play. Zen, he's going to utilize his smoke to take some control back, but he loses the fight to Device, and his aggression is punished. The man advantage gained by Farlig is quickly gone.
Yeah, after getting the opening pick outside for Farlig, he had another shot around red containers, missed out, and Glaive punished him alongside Device. Another one of those rounds that was incredibly close to falling in GODSENT's favor, and it may still yet. They still have 3 players, and they decide to push together as a united force. They're all coming up through secret, trying to get round the back of the team. The spray is good. It yields the kill to Madden, and there's Emmy picking up the slack onto Glaive, who clearly did not anticipate 2 players to face off against him at the same time. And the bomb's also been dropped down. Someone from Astralis has to go pick that up with 30 seconds to spare, and they find themselves a player behind. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe this still will go the way of Astralis, or maybe Dupree pulls this out the fire. Device switches weapons at the worst possible moment, and that will cost him, and that will cost Astralis. GODSENT will hit 4 after all.
That was a fantastic mid-round call from Emmy. I can only assume that was off the back of his decision, and they just group up together and look to retake outside as a unit. That's not something you see too often as well. Like, let's not take that as it is and go, oh, you know, like, we see this all the time. That's a very uncommon play, to just take all of your defenses at once, gather them up into one tight-knit unit, and use it to try and retake a position on the map. I like the call, I like the move, and it works very well, because let's be real, Vince, like, if you don't do something like that in that situation, I don't see any way that GODSENT win that round. They'd lost too many players outside. They'd lost too much map control. And Astralis were looking set to take it. Fantastic call.
Yeah, it was exquisite, really. Such an adept on-the-fly read of the situation. And these were adaptations that we really didn't see on Dust 2, Tom. It felt like there was no second wind, no second idea in place, but already on Nuke we're seeing they are capable of mixing it up on a dime and really throwing Astralis through a loop. Emmy's up close now, different angle, haven't really played this so far. With an AK, crosshair placement towards head height. If Dupree goes peeking around the corner, he may be a dead man, but if Emmy gets antsy and he decides to push, it will cost him. And even though the flash was good, Dupree just stood in position, waited, bided his time, and finished off the aggression. And that's the kind of mid-round call that actually can cost you rounds, Tom. We've seen both sides of the spectrum now.
A risk taken. But again, look at the clock. 35 seconds, and there's a lot still to be claimed, if anything, by Astralis if they are going to make this move. A peek in towards A, as it looks to be the final place they look to plant the bomb, although instead they switch it up late. Sticko about to come under pressure. 20 seconds. If he can deny them, the flashbang might slow them down enough that he can get back into a position to deny the plant. Still a bit of confusion from the rest of the players. And again, how do they keep pulling out these rounds? With 10 seconds, they waltz in, get the entries they need, and slaughter GODSENT. Astralis are playing with the tightest of margins, but again, they're making it work.
And that's the important thing. But this also is training GODSENT into a position where they're assuming most of these rounds are really, really slow. At some point, I expect Astralis to pick up the pace significantly and try and catch GODSENT as they sit there waiting, maybe don't throw their early utility out. Now, this wouldn't be a great round to do it. They must realize that GODSENT's economy is not in great shape. Don't really want to rush onto A site in particular when you're against pistols, and, well, they found that out firsthand earlier on in this very map when they got barraged down by GODSENT in round 3. So now that Astralis have the player advantage, they know they're up against pistols, just going to be locking in position and playing slow and steady and just simultaneously shutting down GODSENT. Make sure they don't walk into the same kind of trap that they did earlier on. USP push from Madden has been silenced by Magisk, who doubles up, and Astralis very likely will be picking up their 4th round.
Yeah, Zen's 5-7 has managed to achieve a bit so far in this game, but he's not really in the place to do anything with it. So, yeah, it's going to be another conversion. And, well, it's unfortunate because GODSENT have definitely had their moments. I also feel like with the way that Astralis are playing, some of the rounds are, I don't want to say last ditch because it definitely seems planned, but they could easily go in the other direction is what I'm saying. Like a shot hit by Sticko in the last one could have changed everything. The same, actually, well, I'm going to harp on him now, but it was Sticko again in the round where they went into the B site late the first time that peeks out and loses his life. So I imagine, as you mentioned, the frustration might start to creep in because they've had opportunities here, GODSENT. And as said, like Astralis, this is what they do. They're so good at grinding out rounds on this T side. They're about to gain their 4th. And with the money already looking fairly decent, even before the bomb goes off, it's about to get to a point where GODSENT breaking their economy is going to be really rough.
Yeah, in a situation like this, I think it would be really important for GODSENT to just take stock of the situation. You know, it would be easy to get a little bit unhappy and frustrated and think what could have been. But at the end of the day, you're playing against Astralis here, and you're actually making it a really close affair. You've already picked up a map. You came into this the heavy underdog. You're going through a transitional phase. Just try and enjoy it. I know it sounds like a really crazy thing to say, but try and enjoy the situation. Try and learn things from it. Just keep plugging away. Play to your own strengths. Don't get too bogged down in the minutia. Don't get too bogged down in doubts and negative emotions. It's not going to do anything for you. And hopefully Emmy, he's a positive guy, has that kind of impact on the rest of the team. We've also got people like Sticko in here, who's super nice and chill dude. So I don't think they necessarily struggle with that too much. But either way, it's 4-4, and they have another buy coming up here, Tom. Although it is lacking a few trimmings. No kits, MP9 thrown in the mix, and no AWP.
Yeah, it's not ideal, that's for sure. And when it came to Dust 2, these were the few rounds that they actually managed to make work. Normally we saw extra pieces of aggression, changes in setup, and we have one here. Outside control is a very big part of what we see from Astralis. They like to gain it, but not necessarily use it. Thrown in the smokes again, but Device is about to go walking into Zen, who's patiently waiting for him this time. Madden also looking to get up close. Does like to try and push these smokes occasionally, but more importantly, Magisk finds the trade. Stops any more shenanigans on outside. And more importantly, they've got this control for free. There's nobody there to challenge them anymore. So you have to hope, for GODSENT's sake, they are prepared for somebody to push from above.
Yeah, you'd certainly think that would be the case. And it seems like it's Emmy that has the right idea, but so does Dupree. He has read the script. He's a couple pages ahead of Emmy. And you definitely don't envy Emmy's position there. Stuck on the site alone, knowing he had to watch multiple angles. Farlick, though, comes out with one. Nearly a second. Zipex has been dropped to 4 HP. And Stiko, who was thinking of making moves into heaven, now has to bypass that a little bit longer. Pop flash from Madden. That's definitely the rough edge of the over-aggression that you see from him sometimes. But at the same time, though, Tom, I actually don't want to ream him out too much because he kind of had to make space for Stiko to get some action through heaven. He had to make a play like that.
Yeah, it's an incredibly bold play to attempt, but in a situation where you're in a 2v3, your teammate's stuck in heaven, like, you needed to try and do something ridiculous, and, well, it looked ridiculous when he tried it. So, nonetheless, again, a moment or two where you kind of feel like that could have gone their way. If Farlick gets that second kill, that's the bomb dropped outside, but I guess the way to put it is the most crucial kills of every round are going the way of Astralis. Like, they are managing to find the picks that are most important. And, well, if you do that, you're going to win the game. And by the looks of it, they are already well set. 5 rounds on the T side. Already a very decent start, and with still another 6 to play. Could easily turn this into another absolute stomp. Especially, again, we're looking at this at the same sort of eyes we look through that first half of Train. Like a 4-1 scoreline in favor of GODSENT. That half actually ended 10-5 in favor of Astralis. Now, sure, they lost the map. They didn't do well on the T side themselves, but we're not in that same occasion anymore. They're very good at the T side, but if anything, their CT side is more scary.
Yes, and keep in mind, they just came off the back of a 16-4 victory on Dust 2, where they looked like they woke up and then some. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that we'd have a repeat performance of that. I think GODSENT need to desperately clamber onto as many CT rounds as possible. Stiko making moves around the side, was hoping and praying that one of his teammates could just hold on a little bit longer. It's a nice dig that passes through Magisk, but ultimately Astralis will be successful yet again, and that will put them in 4 rounds in a row, and they've won 5 of the last 6. So in terms of the momentum and the general ebb and flow of NUKE, heavily now in favor of Astralis, but GODSENT, they do have enough dollars to put together and get a decent buy.
Oh, they're changing the pace. I like the idea. They've had a few slower rounds, but it seems like Emmy's prepared. Even still, though, a couple of trades come back in. Keeping this one possible. We've seen some crazy clutch situations in the last map, 2v4 that started so well, but actually, Zen finds a kill straight onto Magisk. He wasn't the intended target, but I don't think he's going to care. Blade, he actually gets tagged. That's so much information over. They know roughly where he's going at this point. The only problem I have, Vince, no kits.
Yeah, but I feel like that problem may get bypassed, although Blade may have an idea of where the bomb's...
Oh, I love it. I love it. Just takes him down straight through the wall. Doesn't give him a chance to get anything done. And yeah, important for Farlick to do that because you never know. We've seen Glaive many times spray through smokes. Spraying through the wall didn't seem to work out quite as well. That was actually through a smoke as well. That's ridiculous. But I guess he can see the traces. Maybe not quite as impressive as I made it out to be. Wait. We We are going to see Device looking to try and take some control outside. We know that his AWP can be there to do the damage, and Dupree trying to lead the charge, putting some pressure onto Stickos here with the incendiary. Spray connects onto the first, and the smoke will deny any further pushes. Already, though, He's have opted to try and rotate back, make a move in another direction. However, Farlig's actually taken an aggressive stance further forward, and gotta be careful because Xyp9x is waiting. He's patient. It seems like Madden might look to try and join his teammate, but Farlig expects Xyp9x to be here. It doesn't mean he gets the kill. And in the meantime, Free takes a further push around. It's a lot of map control game, but I guess you could say for either side. Sticko finds another pick. Magisk tries to push into position, eventually gets rid of him after the double on opposite sides of the map. However, again, control's been taken, but the Danish Battle of AWPers is won by the side of Farlig this time. The trade comes back for Farlig going strong, and it's left all onto Magisk. A 1v3 situation, looking to try and clutch this out. The first shot's not connected, and that might be his doom. He nails the shot, but actually, it's that flashbang thrown that leaves him completely blind. We will get a 6-6 situation, an even scoreline for GODSENT, and they are starting to grind back a few of these rounds. Oh. We are going to see purchases coming in for both sides still. The T's yet to really come close to running out of cash. The amount of rounds that we've seen come up for the side of Astralis, and in a clean fashion as well, has set them up wonderfully in terms of their economy. And once again, it's outside control. Different variation of the smokes. Gives them a little bit more space to play with if they want to get into the garage. They could, but instead they're going to pressure onto Sticko. He did well in the last round, the double kill. As said, on different parts of the map. He's going to utilize the smoke again, just try and hold them back. He knows they're here, he knows they're waiting. And it's interesting to see how the rest of the team will actually rotate. Farlig already making his way down to the lower bomb site to try and help out. But Astralis know that they can quickly switch things up. Farlig, though, should be able to get this pick. He takes a very aggressive stance. He doesn't actually have any support from Sticko. Even the pre-fire isn't enough. The double D of Dupree and Device is there to ruin their day. And Zen tries to make a risky play through the Molotov, but there's nothing to be found. A 2-on-4, 35 seconds on the clock. And, well, I think it's up to this point. The CTs have to try and save. And unfortunately, we're starting to see some of those star players, some of the players we said we needed at the beginning of this series, step up, and while Madden maybe even feeling a little bit of frustration. For anybody wondering, it does seem like Vince is having a few technical issues. I do like to hog the mic, but not quite this much. It's not a personal choice, but hopefully he'll be back soon. And you won't have to listen to just my voice for the rest of the match. But either way, it is going to be 7-6. Astralis taking the lead once again. And we already talk about this T side as being a fairly successful one for them. As said, they were the team to almost prove that the T side of NUKE wasn't as damning as it used to be. Many teams have since adapted and maybe stolen a few strategies here and there. For the CT side, unfortunately, their buys are getting weaker and weaker. No AWP this time, which has been one of the glimmers of hope for them so far. For Astralis, well, Glaive's got a UMP, but that's by choice. So I think this is definitely someone we need to take a focus on. Where he's going to be playing, what he's going to be doing. Because it's not like they need the cash. Dupree sat with a tasty $8,700. It seems like he's just going to be running the gauntlet. Potentially even just trying to take down Sticko, who's been the main problem for them getting further forward. This time it's falling, and he doesn't let go of the W key. Glaive maybe showing that the UMP hasn't fallen as far out of fashion as maybe we thought. And Device, he's in such a good spot. It's got to be frustrating at this point for the players of GODSENT. Every time they try and rotate, they walk into somebody from this Astralis side. Glaive's still got... Okay, if he wins this duel, I think that maybe we just see GODSENT DC from the server. And the nade, in fact, going to be dunked onto his head as a warning sign, a denial of presence. He's still pushing, though. And at this stage, he's got nothing left to lose.
Right, Tom, I think I'm back. I apologize. I got a blue screen of death. You really do hate to see that, but great timing, of course.
I don't know if this is just Discord sound. It sounds like you're on helium. It's like, hello guys, Vince is here. There we go, there we go. Well, it's... Yeah, Vince's sound is good for me. I'm hoping we can get him back on stream. It sounds fine on our unnamed voice channel that we are using. Well, the nade's going to go through. Doesn't actually do as much damage as maybe expected, and considering the limitations to the utility for GODSENT here, it's definitely not ideal. Bomb going back to be retrieved. It was left in spawn by the Danes, but are slowly bringing it back. And these late round executions they've had throughout this match so far have been stellar. It doesn't seem to be a problem for them whatsoever. They actually doubled up on low, though. I like it. Emmy throwing in a bit of spice to the mix and then doing a good job to try and hold the line. The vent dive, it looked like Glaive just insta-headshot whoever was down the bottom. Sticko, probably frustration continues, but the fact is Glaive, 25 seconds, a 1v3 situation. Be waiting patiently for them to round the corner, and it isn't going to be happening. GODSENT will at least bring things back a little bit, but it was still a very good half for Astralis. Nonetheless, there's still a very long way to go, and we'll come back after the break where we will conclude this series.
Just one day. So let's fly higher and higher. We'll burn with desire. a little more than lonely. Sometimes I wanna play dead. Most nights I really, really hate me, but you get me out my.
With the right CPU, you can turn any game from familiar to phenomenal. Unleash the potential in all your gaming with Intel 10th Gen processors. With its optimal balance of threads, cores, and frequency to deliver elite real-world performance, only Intel can bring Marvel's Avengers to life with in-game PC optimizations. Supercharge your Marvel's Avengers experience with Intel Core i5, i7, and i9 processors.
Here we go, ladies and gents. We're right back into the action to kick off our third and final map of our final best of 3 of today's proceedings. 8-7 the score. Oh, man, and that one tap is delicious onto device. And he just closes the door in style. He's got the pick he was looking for, and now GODSENT looked to push down ramp to try and make the most of it.
Start they definitely need. They got off to a strong one in the last, although the pistol went the way of Astralis. It was the second round they managed to convert. Xyp9x, he turns back too in a similar fashion with a headshot, to say the least, and now they're going to look to hunt him down. Madden again, but look at the quick rotation. Magisk, though, he's missing a couple of shots. He had an opportunity to potentially deny. However, now they go for the plant, and Madden plays gatekeeper.
Magisk, with his CZ and only 66 HP, has to try and somehow bypass all of these obstacles. And considering he has no kit and no nades, I have no idea how he feasibly pulls this off. And I'm not even sure he wants to. I'm not even sure he wants to entertain the idea. Already half of the fuse is gone. Looks like he's going to save instead. And GODSENT on NUKE are actually taking Astralis into the murky deep waters and trying to submerge them as best as they can. This has been such an impressive performance by GODSENT. And although Emmy goes down with the ship, as every good captain should, GODSENT still get across the finish line and put more pressure on Astralis, who will be forcing up.
It is important to note as well that Madden, he had a really rough first half. 4 kills is all he garnered, and you could even see a few moments where he looked quite frustrated, both on the cams and also just swinging his mouse around a little bit. The rest of the team, though, did pretty well. I think Sticko's frag tally is a little bit harsh at times. He was getting some of the most impactful kills, and we're actually going to see them call a tactical pause, probably knowing how important the start to this second half is going to be. And on the other side of things, we are going to have an investment. A different range of pistols, in fact, 3 different across the board. No weaponry the same, as we have device on a scout and an MP9 as well for Dupree. Can't count them out of this situation, of course. We know that they can pull back these rounds, as we saw in the previous half from GODSENT. However, for GODSENT's sake, I think they need to make sure they convert this.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it, for both teams? A real fulcrum point in this best of 3. GODSENT with the superior weaponry. 2 MAC-10s, so they can go for that run and gun style if they want to get up close. At the same time, they have the weaponry range of the 2 AKs. The best of both worlds. Astralis hiding just outside a secret with the 5-7 of Glaive. Molly's being put down, but the first kill goes the way of GODSENT. And now Glaive goes for the wide swing with a 5-7. Actually, just about holds on with the recoil, taking the fin with him. Xyp9x turns tail, runs back towards the B site where he knows confrontation is looming. That threat is now in his eyes, but it's the grenade at range that bounces off the wall and claims his life. We spoke about how important this round was for GODSENT, about how integral this was to breaking Astralis back down, and they seemingly have done it. I don't think Magisk and Device can feasibly get close to the bomb now.
Looking unlikely. Interestingly as well, if you look at the stats for NUKE, like with S-Tag, I think it was something like 12 out of 14 maps of NUKE they won over the last few months. Since Xyp9x has come back, they've lost 3 out of 4. So it's definitely not been as much of a safe haven. Of course, it seems like there's a little bit of a transition period. And of course, those maps were to the likes of G2 mouse sports. And maybe a bit more of a surprise was MIBR, the brand new roster. But they've not looked as invincible since the Dane moved over to Cloud9. He also put up some pretty decent performances on Nuke for them as well. So maybe they're going to become a powerhouse on that map in the future. I hope they do. But for Astralis, they've now lost their lead. Bear in mind as well, like GODSENT are one of the real question marks coming into this tournament. You lose this and you're kind of looking at them and going, okay, this was a team you were able to beat before when they were well practiced under a different in-game leader. If you're telling me Emmy's been able to change enough to beat them in like a few weeks, I'm scared what he can do in a few months, but more so I start to question whether or not Astralis have lost their touch a little bit.
Oh, there will be a lot of doubts out there. You know, going into this best of 3, we said that not only would this game need to be won, but the tournament. If they want to silence some of the doubters and the naysayers, the people that say that they're past it, they won't get back to that level that we once saw Astralis at. Now, if they lose the first map against GODSENT, I mean, no disrespect to GODSENT at all, but if they were, that is brutal. Now, Device has got himself a Zeus kill, but all things considered, it means nothing in terms of how this round is going down. It still will fall underway, as although USP shots connect onto Emmy, doesn't really affect him, and GODSENT hit 10 first. Astralis get back into a bye, but now it's their turn to sweat this one out. It's their turn to feel that this has to be converted.
Emmy's top fragging again, and the entire server. Like this, I don't want to say that it shouldn't be happening, but it really shouldn't. It's weird. Like, he was never expected to do that when it came to the previous roster. And when I saw the change, I was like, well, you haven't really added that much firepower, have you? But maybe he was just chained down by contact, told not to frag, told to play the typical in-game leader role. I don't know what he had for breakfast today, but I'm looking at getting me some. Because, sure, he had a Quiet Dust too. It's a map that was their permaban. It's a map that evidently they're not ready for. However, on the 2 maps which they expected, I would say, in this series, he's been looking very good. And that is a great sign for this team. Win or lose at this point, I've been impressed by what I've seen from GODSENT and excited for the future of the team because, I'll say fair, I like Emmy. I think he's a good in-game leader, but I didn't think he would be the one that would just instantly turn GODSENT into a much better team.
And it would have been instant if they happened to beat Astralis. He's been here for a very short tenure, and Astralis now have depleted the vast bulk of their utility. No more smokes, no more incendiaries. They know there's some players in Squeaky as Dupree's just spotted a flash tossed out, getting one but traded back. He needs Mages to stand big, deliver some big kills, but he's only going to be able to get 1 kill before Device comes in and cleans house with the AWP. And now it's down to Zen. He has control over the bomb. He could maybe cheekily go for a full buy down on the plant. Although Device is up in heaven, he didn't actually go to wide swing and peek in. So Zen has a chance now. He's not just got the plant, but he's managed to scurry away from the bomb. He's about to get pushed, though, from multiple angles. Before he gets tested, there's the first headshot. 3 kills on the board already. He picks up a 4th, spins back around, and it's so close. Zipex takes him down, but it's at such great cost that Zen, even though he loses the round, Tom, that will feel like a bit of a victory. Because if they now come through and win, Astralis' money is in the dumps.
Yeah, no, a very good round from him in general, and he's been one of their top-rated players over the last few months. I think he's a player that a lot of people will sleep on. It is a big surprise to me that we've never seen the likes of Ents come a-calling for this man. I'm not sure the reasons behind it, but he's got that star power, that's for sure. And with the sort of trifecta of Farlig, Madden, and of course Zen, this team actually becomes quite scary. The problem is, it's the consistency of those players. Dupree has been absolutely destroyed by grenades. That almost looks like predictive grenades. Like they're putting them into position to try and deny the aggression of this side. Emmy's also found an opener, and they know he's here. They're prepared for it. They're just pre-firing the angle. He's had to flee. Vince, they are ready for what Astralis are attempting in this round.
As he said, his prediction. It's just straight up anticipation. Where are Astralis likely to push now that they're feeling the heat? They'll try and take some outside control. Well, how do we bypass that? Tons of grenade, tons of bullets. Astralis already a player behind. Dupree on 4 HP. And as I touched on before, the overall money count is $200 collectively. This is where that Zen heroic play with the 4K at the end of the last round could come full circle, break down the Danes once again. And Madden with his entry onto devices, making it more realistic. Dupree fully flashed. He's absolutely irate at that outcome. And Zipex can do little with the AK, but just hold on for the save. Post plant comes up, and GODSENT, not only will they pick up this round, but it's looking good for them to hold on to all of their weapons here, Tom, unless Emmy goes peeking and dies. But this is well more worth to take away the AK from Zipex than 2 or 3 lives. GODSENT should be chasing him down. They know where he is. There's 2 players at a low economy, but 3 that can easily rebuy again, and one of which was Stiko. Bullet in the head. GODSENT looking great.
They're continuing to be one of those teams that, again, we spoke about them at this sort of Eliza tournament where they managed to upset Heroic. That seemed to be like the end of that current roster. Something else to note, Vince, we've been talking about Emmy as if he's actually like signed. But I think from what we've seen so far, he's still only on trial. I might be overstepping the mark a little bit, but if the first or the second match you play in your trial is this against Astralis, get that contract down on the table as quickly as possible and get this man's signature, because not only is he performing well individually, but they look like they have direct counters for some of the stuff Astralis are attempting to do. And Astralis are normally the ones that reinvent the wheel. It seems like they've got there first this time, and well, Astralis looking a little bit predictable, which is not something I thought I'd be saying at this point of the match. They're looking to drag out more rounds over on this T side, and of course, we're still waiting to see what is another 4x up from Astralis. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but as said, no matter the result from this point onwards, it looked very good. Device, oh, I thought he'd go for a knife, but just decides to use the USP and get himself an AK. He can look to make this one a bit costly, but bear in mind, even still, the money's pretty good. Another kill coming up for Magisk as well. Actually starts to make this one look a little bit scary.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit too close for comfort again. Zen reopening the aggression and the advantage on side of GODSENT. Device in the meanwhile with his AK, looking to try and rip someone's head off to at least bring this back into an even keel. But GODSENT having none of it, runs straight across to the A site. They will go for post plant. They still got so much utility as well, an incendiary and 6 flashbangs. Astralis can buy into the next round, but when you have the AK-47, do you want to try and throw that away? You still have to have full confidence that you can pull this one back at 12-9 down. But I really do feel like there is a strong sense of deja vu here, Tom, from the first map. When Astralis came back from a deficit, got a half-decent scoreline come half-time, although it wasn't as one-sided this time around. And then the second half, they just collapsed, like completely and utterly eroded away. And they will look to save.
I would say thus far, this is worse. Because at least on that map, they were on the T side of Train. And like, although I expect better of Astralis, like only getting 2 rounds, it's not good at all. But this is the CT side of Nuke. Like, this is a side of a map where they have been formidable. And they're struggling at the moment. They're yet to really show anything to suggest that they're going to turn this around. This, though, well, if they lose this round, then we might as well just start looking to who they're going to be playing next and consider that GODSENT might be a team we have to fear in this tournament. Glaive, though, aggressive. Like, this has been his main success. He's had a rough map. The last 2 were decent. Especially on the first, he put up some real numbers. Magisk left completely blind, though, and Emmy with a double entry. Which one of these is the 4-time major champions and which is the guy who's just joined a team on trial? Because Emmy is tearing them a new one. A 3rd kill. Zen even spins around. Astralis are falling like dominoes. And Emmy, well, he's the conductor of their symphony. I don't know how he's come in and done this, but he is performing out of his mind.
You really noticed on Train as well. This is a guy that not only can call the shots, but he can back it up with the frags. When on Dust 2, he had a bit of a slow game, it seemed to reverberate around the rest of GODSENT. And now that he's having a resurgence, the stats don't lie. 13-9 lead. Device desperately clambering on just to try and save the AWP. There will be pieces around it should Astralis choose to force buy. Magisk and Zipex can get it done. Round loss bonus is accruing. You'd expect he could drop like a FAMAS or something to Dupree. Glaive could go for a buy. So they probably will pull the trigger. But considering how late in the game this is, in our third deciding matchup, the first game of DreamHack Masters for both these teams, Astralis desperately call a timeout to try and figure out what the hell to do next. And honestly, Tom, I have no idea what they can do to avert what's looking like almost a guaranteed loss at this stage.
Kill Emmy. It has to be said, the supporting flashes gave him a lot of opportunity in this round, but that is the in-game leader for GODSENT running in off the back of some flashes through a smoke and getting a triple entry kill. Now, if you predicted that at the beginning of the day, you're a genius. But this was impressive stuff. And these are not easy kills to get. Even with the effective flashbangs, this is him playing very well. And there were a couple of plays in there from Astralis that, again, could have turned the round. We're going to have a buy-up. The Dane's still kicking. They've got the AWP in play, AUG, and, well, a cheeky XM. Glaive, though, after what was two pretty good maps, is having a bit of a mare. And unfortunately, he was one of the sort of saving graces for them, especially on map 1. A lot of the entry frags, a lot of the aggression he was pulling off on the CT side was what garnered a lot of their success. Here comes this execution again, though. This time, though, it's Magisk. Dupree helping along the way. There's going to be a trade eventually, but it's too little too late. Farlig, 1v3 situation. Vince, he does, however, have the bomb.
He does have the bomb. He has time as well. And he could go where Zen has gone before and hurt the economy, but Glaive does not allow it to take shape. Now, one of the key aspects, one of the key attributes of Astralis in their era was that they would go down 13-10, 14-10, but they would always have this second wind. They would have this adaptation, this little tweak. They would evolve, adapt, and overcome. So many times they looked like they were going to lose, and they somehow brought it back. Maybe under different leadership, you could argue that was under Glaive, not Magisk. Sure. But we know they have that ability. They already have called a timeout. They have more, should they so choose to drop them as well. But GODSENT are taking the initiative, and they're pushing down Secret. They're using the wall of smokes. Magisk here with the AUG, it's tailor-made for these kind of angles. He just has to make sure that he stays alive. If he can get a pick, then all the better for it. They've gone for the booster check down on the doorway side of the stairs, and the decon stairs now will show its hand. Magisk tosses in the grenade, softens them up, and then finishes off Farlig. And the loss of Madden's life will make this that little bit more tentative for GODSENT. They look to try and re-emerge, re-engage, potentially going up the vents towards A side. Flashbang through. An important moment in the round also goes against GODSENT, and that could be the round slipping and sliding away. Every player survives on Astralis. We're not done just yet.
Good couple of rounds from them. They finally managed to deny the A takes, which were the main problem for them in some of the earlier rounds. GODSENT try and switch it up towards B, and Magisk denies them. He doesn't allow them any space. Dupree's very quick on the rotation, and that's a much better hold from them. More of what we expect from Astralis. GODSENT, though, they're going to take a tactical pause of their own. The combination of both Devilwalk and Emmy coming up with a plan, I'm behind it. I think they could definitely come up with something to spice things up. And we haven't seen a whole lot of pressure on ramp, Vince. That's been a position that I almost feel like hasn't come under contention at all, really, for GODSENT. A lot of it's been those upper takes. So I'd be interested to see if they can put some pressure there, especially although Zipex is still performing very well so far this game. He's still trying to slot back in, and I don't think he's anywhere near the sort of peak performance we've seen from him, like going back to last year.
No, it's a far cry, isn't it? But I suppose you could say that the team is looking to rebuild, is looking to try and get that cohesion, that chemistry, insert buzzword here, under wraps. In terms of GODSENT's purchase, there is an MP5 for Stiko, which is definitely catching the eye. Not a weapon you see used a great deal. I believe Device picked it up on Dust 2. It didn't work out for him. So we'll see if Stiko can put it to good use.
Oh, the flashbangs. They are beautiful. Sticker man, he has a lineup for everything. He'll put you in place, he'll set you up, and he'll leave opponents on the deck. Another entry for Emmy, but that one was for free. Glaive, though, he's found 2 back in response. And a couple of low players still make this an opportunity, Vince, as we enter a 2v3.
Low HP, though, on 2 of GODSENT. Farlig and Emmy both struggling. Zipex drops down. He's accepted his fate, that he'll lose some health due to gravity. His knees will be buckled, but so will Astralis. Madden comes out swinging with the AK, and Astralis's somewhat resurgent streak has been brought to an abrupt halt, has been derailed. And I thought Glaive, with those 2 lightning-fast frags, was going to dig this out of the ditch. It wasn't to be. 2 rounds away from a huge upset.
Honestly, I think I want Stiko to be the best man at my wedding. I don't think you could ever get any better support. Like, I'm sure the stories he would tell would be marvelous, and well, the dude would just prop you up. It must be magnificent just being Emmy in that situation. He walks around a corner, his opponent starts shooting at him, and he goes, oh, he hasn't been able to see me for the last 3 seconds. I'll just shoot him in the head and walk on like it was nothing. The guy is so good at playing these roles, and there is no doubt that Stiko over his career has not got the credit he deserves. Last couple of rounds, we've seen some incredible flashbangs. Madden, I think, threw one as well to get them the second entry into this site. And that's what makes this team truly devastating. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of selfish players in this roster. They are willing to take the roles needed for them to win, and that is why they're challenging one of the best teams of all time. GODSENT 14 to 11 up. Stiko straight through the smoke. Frustration for Magisk. There's nothing you can do about that. And while Glaive's going to be forced into the corner, he has a smoke, but he's just going to burn to death. He accepts his fate. I don't know what the decision was there. He thought he could escape the flames, and instead it's falling apart. Stiko's also gained a lot of control while here. And a double AWP. If the bomb goes down, it's over.
Oh no, just everything's going wrong. Dupree shot between 2 of them. That's a shot he's got to land. If he wants to bring them out of this, the jaws of defeat, he has to apply the pressure, and Zipex is doing everything he can. There's the wall bang through the box into the cranium of Stiko. Cracks it open. Surgical precision. Finally, Astralis starting to connect the dots. Such a strange clown shoes kind of round before that, with Glaive dying needlessly. But it's a 2-on-2. This round's not done. Oh, Zen! That one tap is something sublime. And it puts it down to Device. After a godly performance on Dust 2, he will have to be omnipresent one more time. And I don't think he's interested, Tom. He's going back to save. Astralis will be trailing 15-11. GODSENT are so close to the finish line.
Who would have thought going into this series that the Puggy map would be won by Astralis 16-4, and the 2 maps renowned for their tactical bases, 2 maps that Astralis have been legendary on at previous times in their careers, are the maps that GODSENT are schooling them on. This has been an impressive display. No matter what happens, as said, GODSENT have proven their worth in this tournament, proven they deserve their spot, but they are ever closer now to winning this series, sending Astralis down to the lower bracket and continuing onwards. I think there was a tweet not too long ago just saying, like, we're looking forward to playing up against Astralis in the next round. I think that came from someone from Mouse Sports. Might want to start your preparation if that's who you thought were coming. Because, well, realistically, so did we. Probably most of the chat. I'm sure there was a few GODSENT fans in there who believed that they could strike gold, but here we go, Vince. A weaker buy, problems for the Astralis economy, and for the side of GODSENT, they are ready and prepped with 4 attempts to close out this series.
Nade damage is good. The follow-up damage is there. Glaive kind of unfortunate not to get the outright frag. He dropped Emmy to 9. Another nade, this time lands on Zen's face up on Silo. He's down to 65. So in terms of the opening start, Astralis couldn't really have asked for too much better other than a straight-up kill, which won't be forthcoming from Zipex, who has the scout alone on ramp. Needs that backup to arrive. Has stalled long enough, though, that Device can now move into position with the AWP. He gets flashed out of his spot, and ramp will fall. But that's only part of the puzzle. GODSENT have got to connect the rest of it. They drop down. They'll be facing off against Zipex. He misses. It's going to be another miss. So many misses for Astralis, and that will cost them the B site.
Three, the nade is going to do some extra damage. He actually denies the plant, and Device has caught another one. It might not be over just yet. It was looking like a good stance here for the side of GODSENT, but it's starting to slip a little bit, especially with Emmy. 9 HP after the initial duel he took with Glaive. Not much utility remaining, though, for the final players. Currently sit within the server. Farlig with a single HE. This angle normally pretty good, but taking so many angles at once could be tough. Farlig actually removes one of them. He gets them a little bit more control and sets them up for the 3v3.
GODSENT brought back down to 2. Time ticking away, but Stiko comes out with 1, and there's Farlig. It's down to Glaive. He's been tagged down to 35, and that's gonna be it. The upset is here. GODSENT take down Astralis. Can you